If it's ever happened to somebody where you get super excited at the beginning of the journey, new job, you went to a new place, new vacation location, you say, usually when I go on a trip with my family, you go on a vacation somewhere, the first thing you say is, I could stay here forever. It's awesome. And then, a few days go by and, it's not, the thrill goes away. Or you start a new job and your spouse is not, it was a great first day, it was awesome. How's yeshiva? Unbelievable. How's Shabbos? Shabbos. It's so high. And then sure enough, days, weeks, months go by, and the excitement starts to wear off. That's happened to anybody here? Okay, good. I see everybody's hands is raised. It's a universal truth that everybody goes through this experience. Now, why is that?
Good test of faith.
What's the test of faith?
Faith in Hashem. Ultimately, that we should have faith in Hashem no matter what we're feeling inside.
Even with the ups and downs.
I can tell you that for the first time, and probably ever, I wasn't that excited to be flying over to Israel, given everything that I've done, everything I've been through. But it was necessary. I had to make this trip. Usually if I'm flying internationally, coming to Holy Land, be stoked. I didn't view this as just any trip, though. It was really a mission that I...
It was more challenging. It wasn't as just exciting, and in the language of Kabbalah we call it oris, just light.
Not to come. A lot easier not to come.
So this is a very good example of explaining the second phase, not the oris phase, not the phase where it's called Moichem the Godless. Everything is open. You see things with tremendous excitement. When a person becomes religious, those first number of Shabboses, the excitement of it, of coming on a Thursday night to a special learning group, and you just love it, and it's so amazing. It's like the first week of marriage, Sheva brachas. And you see the bride and groom, the chas and kala, and they walk in a few feet off the ground, like in La La Land. And they're standing under the chuppah, and they could barely pay attention to the rabbi who's trying to are you guys here? We're going to try to get you guys married here. They're googly-eyed, looking into each other's eyes. Or if she has a veil, then somewhere through the veil. They can't pay attention to anything. And then years go by, and there's challenges, there's struggles. What happens in the La La Land? Why can't it last forever? Why can't that feeling of Shabbos last forever? Why can't this moment, like they say, last forever? Person goes to dental school. Wow! It's exciting, orientation. And then all of a sudden, the grind kicks in. And you start a new project. Startups. The beginning of the startup is filled with excitement and energy. It's just month 2, 3, 4, 5, when the grind, it was exciting. Why is it not still exciting? So this is a universal truth that God gives us for exactly the reason that you're saying. The beginning is a gift. The beginning is you're stoked. Because why would you ever want to come to the land of Israel? Why would you ever want to come to do something meaningful? You need to have that stoked feeling, and that's a gift from above, that Hashem gives you this jolt of passion. But the problem is that jolt of passion was not yours. It was a gift. It was something that was a handout. You never earned it. But it was good that you felt it, because now you have a reference point of something so much more beautiful, so much greater. If the husband and wife, the chas and kala, weren't totally Google-eyed under the chuppah and just addicted to each other at that moment, how would they know what it feels like later on when the challenges come about what it is that's so special to us? So God gives you this excitement in the beginning, and then inevitably He will take it away. So any time that things are too exciting, the Shabboses are, this is so good. You just have to hold on to your tzitzis and hold on tight and buckle up, because there will come that time that God is going to just take away all that energy. It's inevitable. That's the way the world goes. And you're going to fall into what's called moichan dekatness, smallness. And that's a very real challenge. But why would he do that? Just let me be high forever. What do you say? Yankib.
It's like when the Jews received prophecy, like when they received the Torah, it was like we just got like the verse you spoke about today, even about it was just like a gift, right? And we didn't do anything to work for it. But in order for something to be long lasting and really worthwhile, it has to be earned. Because the only way to earn it is to the grind, working for it. That's how you do all this stuff, right? Ooh, I'm so holy or whatever. If you're not actually consciously working for it and working towards elevating yourself and actually putting work into shabbos and doing these things, and then it wouldn't grow as much. But when you're doing that, then it is going to grow and flourish.
Making it yours.
Yeah.
What is it? Tony Robbins who says it turn inspiration into perspiration?
Yeah.
That type of stuff? It's very true.
Transformation.
Turn inspiration to transformation.
Through perspiration.
Through perspiration. It's a lot of ration. So it's all true, yes. Is that there will be this flash, there will be this excitement, but now the opportunity is for you to now make it yours. For you to own the experience. So you can only own the experience if you take away that light, and now you have to work at it yourself to earn it. But now the light's going to be much greater because you did it yourself. Even though it doesn't seem that way, because where's the light? Where's the ore? It's a very interesting phenomenon that many people around the world took certain substances, psychedelics, and had certain experiences, and it brought them to God. And while we don't encourage people to spend their life on psychedelics, if it's something that happened to them in the past, and they went through that experience, and it opened their eyes to some light, so now they were given something. It was a gift. It was a gift. It didn't take much effort whatsoever. Something was revealed to them. So now, anyone who's gone through an experience like that, the job and their responsibility now is, okay, now you saw something. Can you now work hard through your own day after day and commitment? And not when it's easy. It would have been easier not to come to Israel, but to do the things that are not comfortable, to take yourself that much higher, way higher, because it's self-earned. This is not public information. There's a book that I got access to. They don't sell it in stores, but the Big Savik, the great Mekubal and Tzaddik, Ichimar Morgenstern, said that as a benefit for the generation, he wanted to describe some of the experiences that he's had as a way of showing people of what you could still experience in our generation. Some what's called aliyas, neshama, of allowing the soul to catapult heavenwards through thinking about different names of God. And he writes, this is not in any of the official publishing, this is like, if you go there and ask one of the Gabbayim, maybe they'll give it to you, where he describes the visions that he had through literally a lifetime of work of growing close to Hashem through zero psychedelics. The Rebbe is very against these things. And what he describes is speaking to people and their psychedelic journeys is much more powerful. What the Rebbe experienced, going up and seeing and glimpsing into the spiritual worlds and the visions of what's going on up there, and the pillar of light and the neshamas that you see and the ones that you recognize and the ones that recognize you as you're going up, and the visions of what's going on up there and how they share secrets with you about the things that you were learning that day. What you thought you were just learning simple concepts or Gemaras and Krisis really had very profound inner meaning, and you were fixing the shamas in the higher worlds. So these visions are available. They're very available. It's so beautiful to see when a person achieves those visions because they spent a whole lifetime working for them. So it's really three parts. God will give you some vision. He'll give you some feeling of Shabbos Kodesh. I began this discussion in the beginning. So who's excited for Shabbos? Okay, and we all went. And then one of the Chevra said, I used to be excited. That's how this all started. So the beginning I was excited. Why was I excited? Because God gave that gift. The gift of Shabbos, the light, the aura of Shabbos, the sweetness, the beauty, the intimacy of Shabbos. And then it's inevitable. God takes it away. And now we can build back towards it, but it's going to be even higher. But the build back phase takes a long time. It's not as exciting. It's not as like googly eyed, like under the chuppah with your kala. It's a lot. It's the day after day. It's like Toisus. Gemara Rashi Toisus with Rav Label. Day after day. Challenge. Day after day. It's showing up to Seder. Day after day. But that's the total transformation of the human being. And don't worry, God will give you little lights along the way. He'll give you little packets that keep you kind of going so you don't get too... if it was too hard, then...
He knows exactly the level of challenge that you can handle at any particular time.
That's right. And therefore we'll give like little bursts along the way. Here, take this little nugget. Sometimes you just read a quote or someone will say something and it's just, I needed to hear that. I had one of those recently, like I was in a certain zone and someone said, I just needed to hear that. It was so therapeutic. Thank you for saying that. And just put everything back to perspective and got me back on the train, going in the right direction. So pay attention to that. And just end that there's, and then we're going to go more next week into the chinuch, deeper into our world of Emunah. This is part of the mitzvah, by the way. It's knowing how God is running the world. And one of those ways is that He gives a light and then He removes it. And then in the end you get it, but it came from your earning. Do you know what the example of that from the Torah is? Leaving Egypt. When we left Egypt, that night we were basically undeserving. We had a few things that we were meritorious for. We didn't change our names. We kept our Jewish names. We didn't change our clothing. We kept our Yiddish clothing. And we kept our language. We spoke Yiddish, Hebrew. In that merit, and also the merit of the women, the holy Jewish women, who in Egypt did wondrous levels of Mesiras Nefesh to make sure that the Jewish people continued on and that children continued to be had, and they strengthened their husbands, the Nashim Tzidkaniyos. It's a long story exactly what they did to do that. But really, as a nation, we had sunk into idolatry. As a nation, we sunk into the ancient Egyptian corruption and debauchery and disgusting behavior that was prevalent at that time. And that Egyptian energy continues on. And we have to be careful of that. But what leaving Egypt gave us, you might say, why is it so important that we're still Every time you go through a door and you kiss the mezuzah, you're thinking about leaving Egypt. Every single time that you make kiddush, you're thinking about, why are we so meshuggah about leaving Egypt? The answer is because what happened to us when we left Mitzrayim was that we in our essence left bondage, and therefore the Yid is never in his essence ever in bondage. You might come into your localized bondage, your Hitler bondage, Yamach Shemo, your ancient Greek bondage, your Spanish Inquisition bondage and torture, your Jonathan Pollard bondage, who just came to the yeshiva to speak to us after 3 decades in prison and torture and the amazingness of the human spirit to continue to be alive. Because what Egypt gave us, when Hashem took us out of Egypt, is that no matter what situation you're in, you're never actually in bondage. You're actually out because you can never be put into bondage. It looks like you're in bondage, but no, you left Egypt. And that's why this also gives us a tremendous insight. This is all part of the rubric of Emunah. This gives us a very important insight. Remember this the rest of your life. What do we say on the Passover Seder? We say these famous words. Hashem took us out of Egypt. And if Hashem, you didn't take us out of Egypt, Iluloi Hashem Mitzrayim, anu uvanenu v'nei banenu yesh mishubadan lapar Mitzrayim. If you didn't take us out, us and our children's children would still be slaves to Pharaoh and Mitzrayim. Yeah? Like, empires rise and fall. Like, for sure. Like, which a new Pharaoh, maybe he'd be overturned. We would still be slaves to Pharaoh? Like, really? What does it mean we'd still be slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt? If you didn't, but thank God you took us out. Doesn't mean we'd still be hanging out in Alexandria or Cairo, and we'd be hanging, in modern Cairo, like getting whipped. It means that if you never took us out in our essence, then through all the generations, the nation of Israel would be in bondage in their essence. Our souls would never be able to soar. But you broke us out of that bondage, and now a Yid can never be put in bondage in his essence ever again. It could be a superficial thing, but that broke us out forever. That's why we're so meshuggah about talking about leaving Egypt, because it means we're never slaves in our essence ever again. And these are the moments, and so that moment of leaving Mitzrayim, that was the gift. And then you know what happens? We have to march 49 days. And we have to earn it ourselves. Sfir Sa'omer. We have to build ourselves back out. All the light, now go walking. Have a good hike. But we got little drops along the way. Kriyas Yamsuf. But then there's challenges. Amalek. Rafu Yudei Min HaTorah. And then we get to Mount Sinai, and that's the gift again. The 50th day is another gift, where all of a sudden you see the light again, but now the light was earned. That's why Sfir Sa'omer is so important every day put in. Sfir Sa'omer is a bit of a microcosm of this whole world is one big Sfir Sa'omer. Is God gives you this flash of something, and then Sfir Sa'omer. And then you get a Har Sinai moment. And then what happens? You have to earn it again. Sfir Sa'omer. And then you come out, and then again, on a higher level. That's why the Jewish year is cyclical. We're just going higher and higher and higher and higher. We should be zeicha to know that we're never slaves be'etzem, that we were given that revelation. But then it's taken away. And we have to now work for it and remember that. That's how you have mezuzahs. That's how we remind ourselves. We should know that we're never, ever, ever slaves. We're never, ever, ever slaves. We were taken out of the essence of that bondage. And with that, work hard. Work tremendously hard the rest of our lives. And come to the great Yom Shekuloi Shabbos. The time that's totally Shabbos. Which is the time of the world to come. And come to the world to come filled with all of the fruits of our labors of this world. With Mashiach Tzidkeinu b'mehera v'yameinu Amen. Have a wonderful Shabbos, my dear friends. Hopefully that would be a little bit of the light to re-spark it. B'siyat b'shmai. Kol tov.